We want to say good morning on the West Coast, and we want to say good afternoon and good morning to other time zones that are listening today. You're in tune to House Calls, and it's with your man, Dr. Rory T. Edwards, and we bring this to you every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And today, I think we're going to have a great show topic because many of us go through this process every day. So, our topic today is broken mirrors. And before we get started, I want to let you know that if you do have any comments, questions, concerns, please send an email to rorytedwards1 at gmail.com. That's rorytedwards1 at gmail.com. Or you may send us something on our website, which is www.rorytedwards.com. So let's jump right into it. I want to ask this question that I think is going to be sort of coming up during the whole conversation, but I want to ask people, have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger? Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger? I remember back when I was youthful, and there used to be nursery rhymes, and I remembered the one about Humpty Dumpty. And they used to say Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. They said all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. And that's what we're talking about with broken mirrors. Broken mirrors is something that, what if you actually what if the version of the life that you were living wasn't actually really you? What if it was a scripted version? What if it was a version that people created before you were even born? What if it was something that most people didn't even have a comment or understand about prior to you even thinking about uh, what you would amount to in life? What would happen to you? But I know there's three things. I know there's three things that happen. We're going to talk today about the vicarious trauma. We are going to talk today about the societal programming, and we are going to talk about self worth. Because most people do get up in the morning. Most people, the first thing they do is either go to the bathroom, they go look in the mirror, and they assess themselves. They ask themselves, am I the best version of what I'm supposed to be today? Uh, we know that there's another fairy tale that used to say, mirror, mirror on the wall in Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall, who was the fairest of them all? And so we have to understand that the law of gravity is working in us every day. And so some of the things that we saw 20 years ago are not the same things we see today. But it's not the internal, excuse me, the external version of you. It's the internal turmoil that you may be going through or that you may have lived through or you may have created. That's the hardest thing for us to get through. And that's where this broken mirrors comes in. When you look in the mirror, do you see fragmented sections of your life? Do you see fragmented sections of who you believe you are, who people said you look like, how people compliment you, how people talk about what you look like or what you sound like or what has happened in your life that has caused you to be in the situation that you're in right now? Do you look in the mirror and see exactly what you believe you designed to be? Or has your past experiences designated what actually has designed you? So many people try to run from their truth. They try to run from their past. They try to run from things that they think don't exist in their life anymore. But it does exist in your life if you haven't addressed it and you haven't taken it on head on. Uh, One of the things that I say is that in one of my books, I talk about the difference between the buffalo and the cows. And it says when a storm happens, the buffalo, because all storms happen from the west and they go east, The buffalo run straight towards the storm, because what they do is they face the storm head on, and knowing that the storm is going to continue traveling, they only experience that storm for a little while. What we have done as humans is when we see the storm coming, we try to run away from the storm, and not realizing that the storm will eventually catch you, and the storm will uh, sort of cover you as you stand in the storm trying to figure out, why am I stuck in this storm? And that's some of the things that have happened over your life. People have designed what you believe. People have designed where you live, where you come from, what your economic background is, how you inspire through education, that you're supposed to be an athlete, that you're supposed to be um, famous, or that you're supposed to do certain things. It's not been your desire, because when you first come into this world, you have no control over what your desires are. Your desires are designed by the caretakers who are responsible for your outcome. And a lot of times they have not addressed their pain. So you're living through some of their pain, and they're hoping that they can see positive results in you. So let's talk about those three things that I want to get to today when we talk about vicarious trauma. And what is vicarious trauma? People have heard it. Some people don't even understand that there is such trauma as called vicarious, and it's the unspoken experiences that secretly sculpt your identity. Now, what is let me give you a little blurb on that so that you can understand where I'm coming from on this. So vicarious trauma is, have you ever found yourself reacting to something with the depth or pain that wasn't entirely yours? That's the whispers of vicarious trauma, an invisible hand shaping how you love, trust, and see the world. Have you ever just lashed out at somebody, not knowing where that came from? Just lashed out at them about something that they just mentioned a word, and you just go off on a tangent, and you didn't even know where that came from. That's because of the experiences of this vicarious trauma that sits in the foundation of your soul, of your spirit, of your consciousness, that you have not addressed, and you probably didn't even know it was planted there. But it does causes reactions. What are some of the things that define vicarious trauma? That vicarious trauma can also be absorbing others' trauma through empathy or repeated exposures. You know, I told you your circle of influence is who you become. So if all five of the people you hang out with are constantly whining, gossiping, uh, talking about what other people aren't doing, just sitting on the porch, absorbing negative, toxic energy and negative, toxic health initiatives, that's what you're going to become. You are absorbing their trauma just through empathy and exposure. So you may not even believe it, but this is who you associate with, and this is why you absorb this type of energy. Let's talk about one of the other ones. Highlights everyday exposure to caregivers, activists, educators, media consumers nowadays, social media. How many people go on social media and pull up things, and then all of a sudden it becomes their truth? It becomes their truth. How many people are pulling up the news every day? I got people who call me and say, "Did you see what happened on the news today?" No, I did not, because I choose not to watch it. I choose not to absorb that type of energy, because there's certain things that you're not going to be able to change. If you're that upset about certain things, then make a change. Get out there and run for political office. Get out there and become an activist. Get out there and become a truth teller. Go into the schools and provide a program for children so that you don't think that they're pulling out information that is not of importance. We already know that people would not get rid of information if it didn't have value and truth to it. So either you're going to get mad and let it fester. It's almost like sitting in a wet diaper. Either you're going to sit in a wet diaper, or you're going to get up and change it. That's what we're talking about. Um, what is another thing of vicarious trauma? How trauma silently embeds itself in behavior, relationships, and self narrative. Let's talk about behavior. When you ask somebody something, and they jump up and they come at you negative, it's because they think they've been exposed. Their ignorance has been exposed, or sometimes, let's not even talk about all the negative things, but some people who are very confident in themselves and have learned how to release some of this vicarious trauma won't get offended for you asking them a question. It's when your emotional energy is disturbed because you've now been seen. So you come to places you don't want to be seen, but as soon as somebody asks you something, what happens? Your energy becomes volcanic and it erupts, and you just want people to be seeing you. And then when people see you, you want to act like, why are you concentrating on me? You brought that attention. It's also in your relationships. If you've been in negative relationships, and every so often you're in a new relationship, and that relationship becomes volatile or becomes negative or becomes very toxic, and you say that it's the other person. No, it's you. It's you attracting that type of person. It's you attracting those type of behaviors. It's not just the other person, it's the other person who you've attracted. See, nobody can connect with you unless you allow them in. And so, if your negative energy is very, very toxic, then you are going to invite in toxic energy, toxic behaviors in my relationships. But if your relationship is positive and you know exactly who you are, that's why you'll attract those type of people. And sometimes you may sit around for years without those people in your life because you know exactly who you are and you know exactly what you're willing to accept, and it's not available as much as the negative behavior. So it's very difficult for you to say, wow, I wonder what's going on with my relationships. I wonder why things are very limited for me, because you know what you want and know what you were going to accept, and you have learned how to release some of that vicarious trauma. And the last one is the self narratives. I told you all that before. It's how you come in and you self sabotage yourself. You always talk about I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough. I put on all this weight, I got to get out and do something. I used to be the prom queen, right? I'm no longer that. Well, it's up to you to take care of yourself. It's up to you to, in your self narrative, to tell yourself, where do you want to be? Write it down. You know, I'm big on journaling. Write it down. Write down an action plan of where you want to be, and find the right people who are going to get you there. So those are three, but I do have more. Like I said, if you want to find out more about this, please send me an email at rorytedwards1 at gmail.com, and we can continue to have this conversation about things that set you back from the broken mirrors that you look at every day when you look at yourself. Let's go into societal programs. Societal programs are the roles we're told to play before we even know our lines, right? That's what I'm saying. How many people remember when you came up in life that you were told that you had to go to church? You were told that you, to be better than somebody, you had to be twice as good as them. You were told to speak when spoken to. You were told to walk a certain way. You were told not to be disrespectful to adults. Those are things that we have lost nowadays, but some of them are very good and some of them need to be revisited. But that's the role that you were told to play before you even knew your lines. And let's talk about um, what does that mean? It says before we speak, we're cast. Before we dreamed, we're scripted. Societal programs isn't just a blueprint, it's a box. So when some people are in the box and they're looking at what they actually have evolved to, they have to go back and unpack the box. See, it's almost like a gift that you never open. It's a gift that you see a box sitting over there, and you don't even know what's in that box. But if you go back and unpack that box, you're going to see pictures. You're going to see um, certain things that remind you of when life was different for you. We have a thing that we see on some of the social media called Throwback Thursdays, and people are posting pictures of when they were then. You know, they're talking about how I was, who I was, what I drove, what kind of house I had. This is my lady back then. This is my man. This is what the money I was rolling in. This is all of the things that I was doing back then. But who are you now? How have you taken some of that positivity that makes you feel good by looking back to realize that you prepare yourself for going forward? This is what the broken mirrors situation causes for you. You can go back and look at things, but when you look in the mirror today, are you still a version of that individual? We have to understand. I'm only going to do one because I want to move forward. Um, what are some of the things that societal programs do? It defines social programming, and it is subtle infiltration from birth. right? So when people get older and people go away from a certain religion that they were brought up in, and your parents or your grandparents say, well, why would you go away? Because I found the truth, right? Uh, and so we have to understand that sometimes their truth is definitely not our truth, and we have to evolve with times. So we have to make sure that we are doing the things that will cause our mirrors to be fixed. We want to go back to that Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall type concept, but Humpty Dumpty, they said, had a great fall, right? And they said all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. And that is a thing that tells you if you're broken, you can't be put back together. But I'm here to tell you, as Dr. Rory T. Edwards, that you can definitely be put back together if you are willing to make sure that all the pieces fit for the vision and the desire that you have for your purpose is going forward. Now let's talk about the third one, and I'm going to end with this: your self-worth. That's the silent force behind the decisions we make and the lives we settle for. That's the self-worth. That's the sabotaging that you do every day. That's the thing that that you allow sometimes people to do define for you. What is self-worth? Self-worth rarely shouts, but it decides everything: what you chase, what you tolerate, and what you believe you deserve is defined in your self worth. It's how you look at yourself, how you go to social media every day and see how many people that I'm going to tell you this, and I know people do it because I do it sometimes. People go to social media and people put one negative comment up there, or it goes against your comment, and that's the comment that you concentrate on. You don't think about the comments of the people who see you as doing great, because that one negative comment attacks your spirit. And what's that doing? It's attacking that vicarious trauma. Like I said in the beginning, there's certain things that you don't even know trigger you because they've been planted long before you even realize you were guarded, right? So those are the things that happen. So let's go with that. One, I'm gonna do two things on self worth. Um, Defining your self worth and distinguishing it from self esteem and confidence. Your self worth doesn't come from your self esteem and confidence, because when we look at sports, somebody can be really good on the sports but be an extrovert off the field, right? So their self worth has nothing to do with their self esteem or their confidence on the court, but their self worth, they're looking for people to clap for them. They're looking for people to cheer for them. They're looking for the newspaper articles. They're looking for all of that attention that defines who they are. What happens when the lights go off? What happens when the reporters no longer put the mic in your face? What happens when nobody recognizes you for your contributions because the only contributions you made were in a sport? What contributions have you made to society? Because you're going to be involved in society a lot longer than you're going to be involved in sports. This is for all my sports athletes out there who are defining their self worth through their sport. You got to understand that your contribution to society is much greater than what your contribution is to sports. Sports is a is a phase of life that you've been gifted to if you are able to play at the highest level. It's just something that doesn't define you, but it definitely can help you create a foundation of greatness if you utilize the resources that you have when you're in that position to define your greatness. And what is your self worth? How is it really set up? It's how early experiences. How early experiences, like I said before, you even realize you were guarded. Things were planted in you. Things were planted in you in home. Things were planted in you at school. Things were planted in you through the community. Things were planted through in you through social environments, the friends you had, the neighborhoods you lived in, the educational level of how people pushed education in your home, like I talked about school. And this is the things that silently set the bar that you didn't even realize your self worth. So this is what the broken mirrors concept is all about. It's about how you take away from the Humpty Dumpty story. And don't worry about the kings putting yourself back together, because the kings are the ones who were told to design you in the first place. And they designed you based on their needs, not your needs, right? Um, if you look at a beehive, All of the worker bees know their job. They've been created to do their job. They don't go out. They don't go and help the hornet's nest. They don't go and help the ants transport stuff. What they do is they build their community, and they build their community through a process that has already been invested in their DNA. And that's what our problem is we're trying to please too many people through too many processes, and it causes very difficult situations for us when we truly look in the mirror and we truly define who we are. This is some of the stuff that is going to have to happen for you to go forward and to definitely fix the broken mirrors. With that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this session. I hope that you will please share it with people, because all of us get up in the morning and look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, do you see a stranger, or do you see exactly what you believe you were designed to be and what you're working towards in creating the purpose for your life? This is what this message is all about. So until we talk again, I want you to be well. I want you to stay positive. And when you look in the mirror, do it with a smile. And also do it knowing that your spirit and your consciousness is waiting on you to put the pieces of the broken mirror back together. So until we talk again, my good people, I just say stay well, be blessed. Ashe.